this is your first visit to the Low Light Photo Group, let me give you a brief intro about what the group does and whatnot and stuff like that. This was started in 2017 by me, Donovan, aka Dono Evans or Photo Dono. Basically, the group explores the genre of low light photography, which is creating images with a small amount of light, which can be astrophotography, light painting, long exposures with neutral density filters, star trails, pretty much you can name it. All that stuff. Basically, the group's intent is to share this knowledge and experience in creating low light images through a presentation like today and through other various workshops throughout the year. The group is mainly run by me, Photo Dono, along with a generous support from Johnson Photo Imaging. Other support comes from members who volunteer their time and donations. I am also the Director of Education at Johnson Photo Imaging. Thank you everyone for joining me here on the Zoom sessions as well as on the YouTube channel. One of the things that I love to do is I love to shoot pictures of the night sky. It's one of my more favorite things to do in the whole entire world. I can't think of anything more pleasing, more exciting to do than something like that. For those who haven't met me before, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is, of course, Donovan Evans. I've also been called Photo Dono. That's why you see Photo Dono kind of labeled almost everywhere here. I've been currently obsessed with the Milky Way, educator for over close to 30 years now. So I've been teaching photography for quite some time. If you want to, if you like, please click and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I often post there my work and photo tips. You can find me most on social media as Photo Dono. If you can, print sales and also gratuities do help me pay the bills and put food on the table. Remember, I have a family to feed, and I would rather have them eat something other than meat tonight. The group, if you want to, you can follow the group on social media, on Facebook, and also on Meetup. Use the search field to type the full name of the group, and you'll see the group's banner on either site. There's no feed, of course, to join the group. I post all the Low Light Photo Group events via Meetup and announce them on the group Facebook page. I also moderate another group on Meetup called the Bradenton Photo Group. Check it out. I post all the classes I moderate and teach, plus various field trips throughout the year. All right. Just a few housekeeping things. Some of you who've been here before know I recorded last session. Unfortunately, I didn't lose the session, but I lost my hard drive for a bit. I literally just got it back working again, so that's why the last video is delayed as well. If anybody was doing the Bradenton photo group, that's why that video has been delayed too as well. So, but apparently with the storm on Thursday, I'm off now. So unless the power goes out, I'll have all day to actually work on videos. An unexpected day off. So I shall hopefully get all that stuff done toot sweet, as they say. So, but yeah, that'll be a marathon editing session. All right, I'm just gonna wait here just another minute or two, and then we'll jump on the rest of it. I'd like to thank everybody so far who's joined us today. See some familiar faces and some new faces. Yeah, and as I told Julie earlier, they said so she's already here from the UK, so that's around midnight. She says so. Apparently, I have to be on my A game tonight. So we'll see how my A game rolls out. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. I've already been chatting up a little bit, so I just again introducing myself to everybody who doesn't know who I am. My name is Donovan. People sometimes call me Dono or Photo Dono. So some of you, I think, this is your first time here, and hopefully you'll enjoy tonight's session. This is formerly the Low Light Group, so I hope you'll enjoy it. And I'm going to get started right here. But if you got any questions about police, you're more than welcome to chime in. I can't see the chat window, but I got the chat icon up. So if you type something in the chat, I'll see that, and I should be able to go from there. One of the things that I like to do at the beginning of the thing is talk a little bit about some other photographer that's kind of impressed me a little bit, or informed me, as I say. Alfred Stieglitz is probably one of the foremost photographer, at least the beginning stages of photography. He's one of the people who really pushed forward as photography as an art form, through so he was born out in New Jersey. He's an American photographer. This is back in the 1800s, all the way to the 1940s. An amazing photographer. If you ever get a chance to check out some of his work, most of his work is in public domain, so it's free. If somebody's selling you his work, by all means, yeah, I would double check it. It may or may not be his. So most of his stuff is out there in public domain. But this is a guy who, of course, he was from a generation of photographers who had to get the shot right the first time. There were no do-overs like we get to do sometimes with some of our digital stuff in the background. This is probably his most recognized famous photo that he shot, and it's one of the things that got his name out there, as it were. You can see it was something that was very important back in the day. It's still important these days about, of course, immigrants and stuff like that. So it was a really, again, at the particular time, it was a powerful statement seeing all the steerage class and stuff like that. So good times. The other thing too I thought was really cool is he was married to a relatively well-known painter called Georgia O'Keeffe. Some of you may be familiar with her work. An amazing artist in her own right, and of course, an amazing guy. So, if you ever get a chance to check out Stieglitz, if you haven't heard about Alfred Stieglitz, he's certainly well worth the effort of exploring his life a little bit, checking out his work, and see what he was able to come up, especially with cameras that were very desperate for light as they were. So, anyway. There's one more upcoming event so far on the schedule, and then coming up. I know this one's probably not in the Lola group; it's the Braid Photo group. But I know some of you like to do a little bit of both, so that's why that's here. If anybody's interested, I'm going to try to shoot the sunrise again over the Skyway. This will be on a Sunday, November 27th. The sunrise is at 7, so the park doesn't open till 7. Occasionally, once in a while, the doors are open early, so you can sneak in there. And I'm going to try to do all that if I can. But sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But usually I get there by 10 after, and I can usually get some shots. If you really want to do that, if you want to follow me with that, I'm going to do it again probably in January, where you get there, the sun's going to be rising. It'll take a little, it'll be rising up sometime after 7. I forget what time it is, but so you get a little bit of some golden hour in there as well. But it's kind of fun to do. You never know what you're going to get. There's always surprises at the Skyway. Now, some of the icons, somebody mentioned before they weren't sure what the icons meant on some of the photos that I used. Mainly the icons are just to help identify certain exposure methods like aperture, shutter, and ISO. So if you're, that's basically what the blue one's for, the red one's for. These were all designed by one of my cohorts here at Johnson Photo. Her name is Shelby. She designed a lot of some of the infographics that I use quite a bit in some of the classes and things of that nature. So a big shout out to her for some of that stuff. I mentioned during the last Low Light group meeting that I was going to try the HNY Revo ring. Say that 6 times fast with a polarizer and not virtual, variable neutral and variable neutral density step adapter. It was really really cool. I enjoyed working with it immensely while out in the field, and made my life a lot easier. I have a 82 millimeter polarizer and variable neutral density filter. So my lens sizes are 67 to 77. So I have a bunch of step up down and step up rings just to make it all fit. It's a bit of a pain to go back and forth. I mean, I got a couple $100 in filters, so I hate having to buy one for each lens. This is just one filter, size fits all. It was really, really, really awesome. This is one of the things that I did do with it, which I thought was really cool. One of the days I was there, it was super windy. And I said, well, now it's perfect time to break. No clouds, mind you, but super windy. So now is the time to break out the neutral density filter. And that's where this guy came out of it. So I thought it was pretty, the way how it handled the color rendition and stuff like that. It was really cool. I tried a couple of variety of stops. These were all shot, I think, at f/22, and a variety of other no, no, variety. An ISO of 200, I think, is what it was. Oops, hang on. I'm trying to hit the emit button. There we go. So you can see this one's about 6 seconds that I did, 2.5, 1.5. These are the unedited versions of them. I didn't do anything in there. You could, as far as changing any of the color. So you can see the rendition of the color was actually, at least I thought, was fairly consistent between the different exposures, the different stops and stuff like that. I didn't mark down which stop. You can't tell which stop you're working on. I just went from very light to very dark, and I just let it roll from that particular thing. I did some editing here and there, of course, and of course, this is the one I did the most of my edits on. So you can see it did again. The color stayed up fairly well as far as some basic edits on that stuff. So I was fairly happy with that as far as the thing worked out. So if you guys want to check it out, come to the store. I'll be glad to show you some of the stuff. This is the circular polarizer bit. So again, I just left it on there, and I was able to dial in the circular polarizer to get the shots that I wanted for this type of thing. So it was, again, a very, very useful tool for me. I'm definitely happy that I got one. And yes, really cool stuff. Okay, and so another thing too, I did forget, almost forgot. Susan McDonough from Nissy. The store sells Nissy products, so they sent us to let us know they're having a live webinar. It's not through the store or anything like that, but I thought you guys might be interested in that. Somebody they're doing a free event. Of course, they're going to talk a lot about Nissy stuff. The store does sell some Nissy stuff, so if you guys are interested in that, check that out, and you can see what they're doing as far as that goes. It's a lot of fun. But sometimes with their things, I don't know if I'll be able to make it. I'll be flying back that day. And so hopefully I'll be able to tune in. It starts at 8 o'clock Eastern time here in the States. So again, they have a variety of different products. They're great for people who would like to modify the light before it hits the sensor. All right. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the photo review because that seems like what everyone's patiently waiting for. Everyone good to go? All right, cool. All right. So the photo review, we're going to start off with you, Lisa. Aren't you excited? I'm looking at you in the picture. That's why. So anyway, Lisa was kind enough to send us some stuff. You can unmute yourself if you want to talk about it, Lisa. That's perfectly fine. So you can see what Lisa did. She got was if I saw your notes correctly, this was 10 stacked, right?
Yeah.
And where was this at? I don't recognize this place. At least not.
This was again up in New Hampshire when I was
Okay.
up there in the end of August, beginning of September.
Well, that's cool. You got a nice little coloring in there as far as the Milky Way goes. How bad was the light pollution up there? Because you can see a little bit there, but not too much.
Yeah, I checked on the map. It was a Bordeaux 4.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. So that's really good. I really like the definition you got in there and stuff like that. Did you do any besides the stacking? Did you do any chopping of anything?
I did. Take with all the trees and lens and everything. I took one. I made a layer of one image in Photoshop and then the stacked image, and I took the trees from the single image, so it was less blurry.
All right, cool beans. Yeah, like I said, it looks. I really like the way you did it, with everything, the lighting, color. I think it works out really well. The only thing my eye keeps going to this, but that's because I'm a jerk and it bugs me.
Okay, yeah, I should maybe take that out. Yeah, it's just more bushes and stuff.
Yeah, but that's perfectly fine. I mean, you get all that stuff is just whatever you enjoy doing as far as that goes. So anybody got any questions about stacked or for the exposure on this particular one? Anybody not familiar with shooting Milky Way? Julie, you got a question?
I have a question.
Yes.
So did you do it 13 seconds per each 10 shots? And it says, right. Okay, so each one was 13 seconds. Okay, great, thanks.
Hi, could you explain what stacking is?
You want to take that, Lisa? Sure.
Go ahead.
Stacking is basically, essentially, you shoot the same image 10 times. And what you're doing is you go into a program, Photoshop, Lightroom, or star stacks or sequator, where it takes all the images and it combines them all together. And what it does is it's not only does it take those pictures, it helps find where all the noise at and helps clean up some of the noise as well. There are lots of ways to stack, and that's not those things were just a couple things. Not everybody does 10. Some people will do like 30 or 40, but they're also doing what they call lights and darks, meaning they do the same picture again, but it's very bright. They also have darks. They're trying to help get the remove as much of the noise as possible, because you can see at 3200, it's not too bad because she's shooting. She's shooting. Look, I feel like I'm having a stroke. See, she's shooting at 3200, which is not bad for an ISO on her camera, but it helps make it a little bit better, especially when you start looking at the details on the image. And so that's what stacking does. It's a lot of fun. I think we've talked about it in some of the previous videos. If I can find the link, or if anybody finds the link, they can send it in there. But that's basically about it.
What
One
camera?
thing that was kind oh, go ahead. Sony A7R4.
And what was the other thing?
One thing that was interesting was I was taking a series of shots. I was trying to do different compositions, but all the images right after this was like one of the first shots I did that, and the light pollution seemed to get much worse. Or what happened is I guess the Milky Way was moving and going, dropping more into the light pollution.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that can be a challenge at times.
yeah.
Lisa, when did you take that picture?
It was in the last week in August.
That explains why the core is so low.
So low, yeah.
Plus, also you being on a higher latitude, it also plays into it. So
yeah. So for those who are shooting with the Milky Way has what they call seasons, and they're talking about this right here. It's the core of the galaxy, our little cosmic home. So the idea is, if you want to see more of that, there's like certain times of the year you can see that in the northern hemisphere, and the different latitudes will affect how well you can see it and stuff like that. This was really cool. Was this in Sarasota, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was over in the park by Moat Marine, just shooting across the Sarasota Bay.
Oh yeah, over there by City Island Park, right?
That's it. Yeah.
I really love. Now I gotta ask, did you do any shopping with the moon at all? I mean, you didn't make it bigger, smaller, things like that.
That was one shot. That was it.
Oh,
no.
cool. No, that's cool. I just want to make sure, because I know I do that quite a bit. I don't like my moon, so I'll put a different moon there. So
or it will be enlarged, just marginally. That's all.
But I love the compression though, and this is really nice. It's lovely. For those who are not familiar with compression's where the background, which is in the case the moon, is brought closer towards the foreground, and that's usually you find that with telephoto lenses. And she was shooting almost and when I saw your notes, about 400 millimeters almost on that.
Yeah.
That's really. Now, was this cropped after you shot it too?
Not much, not too much.
All right, cool. Because I know you got more pixels that you can play with now, so that's
yeah. But it was I think there was a little bit more on the sides and the top. I was trying to get the water on the bottom, so I didn't want to take anything off of that.
Right. But yeah, that's really lovely. Got some great definition, especially with just the minimal stuff like this, like the cloud. You can still see that. You got the. You're never going to get a tack sharp moon with just the one shot, because you got the atmosphere in the way. But that is really good. You got lots of nice detail, especially in the Aries right there. That's really, really, really nice as far as that goes. And look, you can see somebody standing at. No, just kidding.
As the moon was rising, it was coming up between the buildings.
Right.
But the clouds were there, so it was just, you could only see little segments of the moon.
Well, that's really, really cool.
Lisa, if you were to have a converter, right, you might take the picture once And if the moon still look too small, you put the converter, take a picture of the moon at the same time, and then you replace it, and you have a lot more definition to the moon.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody's seen, was it what's it with Cosmic Johnson? I forget his name now, but he did some stacking of the moon, which I thought was really really cool.
Hmm.
My favorite moon replacement is the one I took during the day.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it.
Most detail I ever got.
Yeah. Yeah, for those who are not aware, sometimes photographing the moon can be challenging because it's a different exposure than the rest of your image, because it's a different lighting altogether. So sometimes you shoot the moon, then you shoot your foreground, background, whatever you're doing, and stuff like that, and then you combine them all into Photoshop. It's not that you can't get the moon in one shot; you just the lighting. I'm assuming you said it was moon rise, right?
Yes.
You said, and
Yeah.
so was the light. Was there any kind of sun already, or you like the blue hour?
It was blue hour. Yeah, it was blue hour. The sun had just set.
Yeah, so that's why she's got a lot of light that's pouring on top of this too. So that really helps out. Instead of like shooting things like if you're shooting stuff like in some of the lunar eclipse stuff, that's a little bit more tricky. But especially if you're shooting in dark areas where you can see them. So Angela in the chat said great photo, Lisa.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Also, Donald, like yesterday here in Mexico, the moon rised right at the very end of blue hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw it after it was above some houses. I was walking and so on. But today I thought, oh, I'm gonna go out before the meeting and shoot it just as it going through the Venus belt. And it's impossible because it hasn't risen yet. So as you guys will see on one of my pictures later on, it's all everything pitch dark, so you can get the moon on the precise exposure. But then the blending you were saying, Donna, if you have a horizon that is very, very complicated and you don't do bracketing really quick, to align that horizon with the moon is almost impossible.
Yeah, exactly. That's cool.
Yeah, it felt like it was going up at 100 miles an hour, as I was trying to make it
I know,
happen.
it's like, that's the thing, you get your adjustments, you get the shot, and you go, wait, crap, I did something wrong. And you try to do it as
Yeah.
quick as you can because that moon, you don't really, when you're just out there in just normal nighttime, you don't realize how fast everything's moving out there,
Yeah. And I was kind of running along the beach, like with my tripod, trying to get the right position.
Lisa, it looks like the moon is going to run down the cloud. It looks like a line that it's running down.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's cool. Yeah, I
It's
didn't
slightly-
see that.
slanting
That's
down.
cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Love that.
Lisa, you might add some one of those kite surfers in there on the bay and a couple of birds, and that's it.
They're already telling you what to do, Lisa.
Suggesting only.
So again, I love this cropped version of the Star Trails. I don't know if you cropped it, but I really love this because again, I know you're looking at the north, and I think this is that same place that you shot the Milky Way.
Yeah, in New Hampshire. Yeah.
So, and I didn't know. I don't think you would, but was that an aurora down there too, or is that?
You know what? Not that I know of. I'm not sure why that
Yeah.
color popped. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just curious when I saw that, but again, I love the lines and the streaks and stuff like that. Was this all in one shot with that Sony? I was just curious. Or oh no, it's stacked. That's right. Never mind. Down that up.
Yeah.
But was
Yeah,
each shot
160.
each shot 25 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a lot of distractions everywhere, so that's why it's kind of cropped at 22 millimeters.
Pesky
I was
planes.
trying and well, a lot of lights and boats and everything. So I was trying to kind of minimize what I was getting, but still have.
So this took you about an hour to do, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
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 And for those who don't realize, when you're doing stacked, she did 162 images stacked. And if she shot 25 seconds a shot, that's basically a little bit over an hour
Wow,
of
Lisa, you're
gathering exposures.
persistent. You're really
Well,
persistent.
well, the
When,
good
when
thing is it was just out in front of my family's lake house with a big old cement dock, so it's really steady. So I just set up my tripod on the end of the dock, and then I went back up to the house. I did a few things, and watched it. Came down periodically to check on it. So.
Dono can tell you that I cannot take more than 20 minutes doing it. It's like, oh, whatever, done, goodbye.
Yeah. No, this is really, really cool. I really,
Well, thanks.
and I like the crop because again, you got a little bit of the divide as it's going towards the other side right here. Almost what they call the equator of the star trails of that. So I know
Oh
over
yes,
here north, and it's a nice abstract of the night sky, and I really enjoy that. Especially again, you got the little light pouring from whatever boat or houses, how it's just reflecting
yeah,
off of there.
yeah.
Got that nice glass sheen of the water. Again,
Right.
a very, very wonderfully,
Lovely.
wonderful composition.
Lisa,
Oh,
how
thank
many
you.
how many batteries did you use?
Oh no, just one. Wasn't bad. Wasn't too
Wow.
bad. And actually, it wasn't that. It wasn't even close to being completely depleted.
Okay.
The weather was nice. It wasn't cold or anything. So
Yeah, yeah. There's somebody sent a picture. I think it was on Instagram. Said something about his dew heater broke, and there was ice on his camera or frost, I should say, frost. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I think you did some good stuff here, Lisa. I think you're really doing
thanks.
some it's next thing of course you got to do is big large prints and stick them on your wall. That's the thing, that's the thing about photography. It leads you to printing, and next thing you know, you got prints, and then you got a stack of prints that you can't get rid of. All right, that's cool. All right, well, I'm going to jump into the meetup group here, and then we can talk about some of those pictures. Somebody was asking me, and I think it was Stephanie. I think are you still here? If you're still stuff, the about the nope, nope. Did I do it? I didn't do that. Did I? Okay, good. Like whoops, where they're asking if I could zoom up on there, so I could zoom up on the pictures and stuff like that. So if you're here, you're more than welcome to chime in. If not, I can try to go over the questions that you asked me earlier. See if she's around.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Cool. Oh, there you are. I see you now. All right, cool. So you're at. Did you get my email that I sent out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to point out is that this is really cool right in here because you can see Orion, the Orion Nebula right there, which is really nice. I like that a lot. To me, that was always one of the cool things about the Orion is being able to see stuff like that. Now, what I was telling her is that one of the things that it looked like to me, there are some star trails going on here, not too much, but it looks like there was also some cameras shaking here. That's why I think you got a little bit of this doubling up. So, you might want to, I don't know if you bumped into the camera or a tripod. So was it a little bit of both, or do you know?
Well, it's on a deck, so that's probably not very sturdy.
Yeah. So it's probably picking up a little bit of the vibration, but that's why you were getting some
Okay.
of those effects. One of the big clues for me was like looking at this because I could see the plane or whatever was going by. The reason why it's doubling up like that is because of the little bit of the bump right there.
Okay.
So that's what that one was.
All right. Thanks.
No, not a problem. But I really enjoyed this one. I thought this was very lovely. Where was this at?
It's in Iceland.
Oh, cool. So I saw the aurora back there, and I thought, well, that's really cool.
Thank you.
Do you happen to have that same picture from, behind the little dunes by any chance?
Yeah, I do,
Well,
but not here.
it's okay. I was looking at this too, and I really like the let me pull it back up here. I lost it. Here it is. I really love the fact that you got this nice little reflectivity back there on here. Now, I didn't see any notes about on there about because I think the meetups changed some of how you could post the pictures. Can you refresh me how long the time it would take you to shoot this? You know, a couple seconds, or was it a minute?
I
Or
think it was 15 seconds.
15 seconds. When did you shoot this one?
That was September, early September.
Cool. So not too chilly, right?
No, yeah.
That's really cool. And I think one of the questions you're asking too is about working out with noise and stuff like that.
Yes.
There, and I'll talk more when I do talk about. I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we go through some of my edits and stuff. But I think one of the things you were asking about is you use Photoshop Elements, right?
Correct.
So if anybody's got any pointers for Photoshop Elements, we could talk about that more on the editing part as far as that goes, and then people can chime in. But I'll try to make sure I put those pointers in while we're talking too. So
Okay. Thank you.
remind me if I don't mention that again. But yeah, I can see because you were talking about this right here, the noise level up in the
Mhm.
sky, especially. One of the things you could do too in editing is just work on the noise effect because the noise isn't that noticeable down here. It's a little bit more noticeable in the sky. But again, still a lovely composition. I like how it worked out. I love it. This little triangle effect you got going on there. That worked out really, really, really well.
Thank you.
Let's go to the next one here. And oh, there we go. The first lunar eclipse of the evening. Was this also shot last night or not last night? Yeah, last night.
Yeah.
Tuesday
From
morning?
Denellen.
From Denellen.
Yeah.
That's really cool. You got some
Thank
nice definition there. Was this about a 30th of a second?
I believe so.
Yeah. Have you shot the lunar eclipse before?
Nope.
That's cool. So how did you figure it out?
Experimentation.
That's cool. Yeah, I saw you. Now you're using the Panasonic, right? Was it the
FZ 2500.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that's cool. That's the point, not the point. That's the big zoom camera, right? That they have.
Yes, to 480.
Yeah. So you can see that that's a really great camera for what it could do. A lot of people in the group will use a lot, either a phone, not a phone, but using a mirrorless system or DSLR. But you can see in this particular one, especially over here too, in your previous one, I think it was the same camera, wasn't it? Yeah.
Correct.
It's an amazing camera for what it can capture. That is really cool.
And it's lightweight.
Yeah, exactly. Very lightweight. All right. Any other questions for Steph before we move on? I'm sorry, I keep calling you Steph. I have a friend of mine that I call her Steph, so it's where I get the habit. So is that okay?
That's what I go by.
Okay, cool. All right. Now this is Dave. Any questions for Steph before we move on to Dave here? Nope. Okay. All right, Dave, you're up. This is again, I always love your work. I think that's pretty cool. I love the composition that you got here. It's really wonderful, especially with the spiral going on with there, with being framed by the trees and the other one just kind of shoving up there. Nice little bit of low light on the beach right there. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, so this, I was doing the Milky Way, and this was, I was pretty much done the Milky Way, and I normally don't do star trails, and I thought, well, why don't I just turn around?
Mm-hmm.
So I turned around, and that was 8 4-minute shots stacked at 6,400, no, 400 ISO f4.
Okay. That's really, I love it. What's this, Cape San Blas or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, everything is from Cape San Blas, because I was there last week for about a week. I had a blast at Cape San Blas. So.
Yeah. Say that 6 times fast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, I always love your work, and this is another great thing. I forget which camera you're using, the Z7s now. Is that what
this is the Z6 II. This was the 15 millimeter f2 lens.
Cool.
I did put all the lens status stuff in the comment section, but then I couldn't go back and find it after I put it in. But
yeah, that's what I did too, and I couldn't see that up there. I don't know why. So when I was holding the mouse, wait, what's this now? Hang on.
It popped up for a second.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that worked out. I don't know. Steph had a question. Are you shooting up a hill? The North Star is so low, but I think you're just at the beach water level. Is that right?
Yeah, it's at the beach. That is probably about a 20-foot elevation to where the trees are. All I did to find the North Star was I had the compass on my phone, and I just pointed and, figured I would get it, and I did. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I enjoyed it. I think it's pretty cool. Anybody else have any comments? Nope. You've got an award winner. You win.
Woohoo!
It's beautiful.
No, that's again. I really enjoyed this one too. Again, I just thought this was again very lovely with the definition you got there, and it's popping up anywhere.
Yeah, this is St. Mark. This was 10 seconds, 6400 ISO. It was my 15 millimeter lens. And where you have to go there is you have to go behind. You're actually standing in probably about 6 inches of muck, listening to the strange animals making noise behind you. And it's a good time of year to shoot Milky Way because the sun goes down and the Milky Way's up,
Right.
almost right away. So.
And you said where was this again? I didn't hear it.
This was St. Mark's, which is just a smidgen east of Cape San Blas.
Right. What's the hours there? Are you allowed to be there after hours, type of thing, or is it something else?
Well, you need. Well, so it would be a problem in the spring. You need to go in before they shut the gate.
Right.
They shut the gate. I think it's like 6. So this time of year, it's fine. You go in, you putz around, you do sunset or whatever, and then you just hang out, and then the Milky Way comes up. When it's at 2:00 in the morning, that's a lot of waiting.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you get like a camper permit.
Right. But they do let you out, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Dave,
you know what?
Dave,
they were paving the road and the gates were gone.
Oh, okay.
So I wouldn't guarantee that you can get out.
Dave, did you do light painting or you just did low light?
Yeah, there was a light panel over to the right, and it was behind me. And unfortunately, there's that dark spot is the shadow of somebody that was unfortunately standing there. But yes, that's light painting.
It looks really, really good.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, I didn't even notice there was I didn't realize that was supposed to be a human right there.
Yeah, that was a human.
Yeah, bastards are everywhere.
Yeah.
So, David, is that stacking as well, or is it just one?
No, this is one shot. I did take 15 shots of every shot I took. I normally will only stack if I'm going to print. This is one shot, and I also was trying on this trip because I did a workshop with Kevin Adams, who does a lot of out in the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Yeah.
And what he does, and this is just what he does, so I tried it, and sometimes it works real well, is he doesn't do stacking. He just puts the noise reduction on in the camera. Which when I was doing that in July out by the lighthouses, I saw the advantage to that was because there were so many clouds and so many storms, to stack just wouldn't have worked because you couldn't get enough shots that were the same. So this one, I probably used the in-camera.
It's lovely. Very nice.
Yeah, Nancy in the chat says, "Been there, and yes, there's muck. I have to catch the cottonmouths."
Yeah, you're hearing things you don't want to hear.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least you weren't out there by yourself. That's it. At least if something bad did happen, at least somebody would hopefully take you somewhere safe.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of anybody using that technique before, of leaving noise reduction on in camera. That's kind of
well. These are 10-second exposures, so it's not like it takes too much longer. But usually I stack anyway in case if I'm going to print it, I would go through the stacking of the images.
Right. Yeah, for those who don't know, if you leave noise reduction on in the camera, it usually, if you do a 10-second exposure, it usually takes about 10 seconds for it to process the image. So if you're trying to shoot really quickly, or at least right away after you shoot the next shot, you usually turn off noise reduction. So that way you can get to that next shot without having to wait for it to process, so, go through. Generally, if you
It's
got
actually
big enough,
doing a black frame or a
yeah,
dark frame.
exactly. So you have to wait for it to do that before you can actually take another shot. And sometimes you can get lucky if you get the buffers a little bit quicker, but for the most part, you got to wait. But you can always do noise reduction also in Lightroom and a few other things too. But stacking is usually the better way to help massage it, especially as Dave said, you can print it up.
Donna, when it's doing it in camera, is it in RAW? Is it keeping the raw image, then just applying the noise reduction so you can still get back at the raw?
I'm assuming so. I don't really know the answer to that question. I think it's
depending upon the camera. My camera combines them.
Yeah, I think mine does too with my Olympus. It combines the two, but I don't know if
I've never messed with the noise reduction function in camera.
Sometimes I'll leave it on. Sometimes I turn off. It all depends what I'm shooting. Oh,
I usually keep it on, and it comes to and I do single shots, and it comes out just right.
There you go.
And that's in RAW?
Yes, always.
Okay.
That's all I shoot.
Okay, thanks.
So this is Cape San Blas, 180 from where the other shot was at Cape San Blas. So that's the moon set, and it was probably another 3 minutes. It was completely gone. So I have some shots after that where it's a little bit darker because it didn't have the moon, but I kind of like the look. This is also 10 seconds, 6400 f2, and this was a 20 millimeter Nikon lens. So it was 1.8, not f2.
I hope you have this hanging on your wall, Dave. This is fantastic.
This is one I plan on printing. So, I mean, if you haven't been there at night, it's certainly worth a trip because it's completely dark. I mean, and you can get some good shots.
Actually, you know that we have been near that area before, and that light that you guys are seeing on the horizon, the camera can see it. Usually it's pitch dark when you're standing there. So this is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great place. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go back. For dark sky stuff, it was just phenomenal. And there's no people. There's none. Nobody.
Yeah.
Best part.
Yeah, that little section right where it's like that's the government section right there on the beach, right?
Yeah, that's about where this is.
Yeah. So I drove up there one night. I was saying that, and I went to go out and shoot some pictures, and the weather was just horrible the whole time I was there. So I just basically just did an R&R thing. But I went out there anyway because I wanted to see at least what it would look like, kind of thing. And I took my Kia out there, and my Kia almost got stuck in the sand there. I didn't realize when I pulled in how soft that sand was. So
it's soft.
Yeah, so I had to do a little bit of rocking back and forth. But this is like at 2:00 in the morning, so I was like, hopefully the MPs won't come along and knock me out or something.
Yeah, about a 10-minute walk. They have a pocket of stumps, right there in the water, and for foreground, that's about it. The stumps, but.
Yeah, it was cool. Again, I love the composition on that. That
Thank
worked
you.
out really well. And again, I really love your work, Dave. It's great stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. All right, Glidden, you're up. I'm assuming this is a Milky Way.
That is the Milky Way. Sorry that with the export it loses so much quality. This is south of where Dave was photographing. This is near Steinhatchee, Florida. It was what I called the extreme end, or the end of the core season of the Milky Way. So that's why you see it tilted all the way to the right, and the core is barely visible with that crepuscular light on the horizon. I couldn't see it with my naked eye. The camera showed it to me, because to me that area was pitch dark, like Dave was saying. That there was, I was the only one there that night, and I couldn't see my hands if I tried, but the camera detected that light. I believe that picture is about 20 seconds at 3200, using a 16 millimeter lens from Canon. And what else? It was 20 seconds, 16 mils at ISO 3200. With usually when I shoot the Milky Way, I will set my white balance to 4,000 degrees Kelvin.
Are you still you're still fixing it a little bit in post after you do the white balance, even though you put it at 4,000, or are you not worried
No,
about that?
I don't mess with the temperature. I might pick a color in the picture and saturate it a little bit more,
Right.
but I usually don't mess with the white balance
Okay.
after the fact.
Yeah, I love the colours.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Again, I love this composition with the grass right there, and you got the Milky Way basically taking center stage. Everything points to it. That's nice. It's cool beans. Anybody else? All right, moving on. There we go.
This is the same night, same day, kind of same settings, but in vertical. You can it looks so bad with the expert, but you can see that maybe when I started shooting, it was like 7:30 because it was October. So it will be dark early, and the Milky Way will be visible right there. And then this one is a composite because the sky, I think it was 3 minutes on a tracker, and the foreground I picked it from another 20 seconds exposure.
Yeah. For those who don't know, a tracker is a device you can stick on your tripod, mount your camera to it, and it'll follow the sky so you can keep shooting the same position without having to readjust your camera each time, which is very useful, especially if you're stacking a lot.
To give you an idea how late in the season for Milky Way it was, I was completely done by 9 p.m. It was the core was no longer visible, and I was done, and I didn't have to stay over and stay hatchy that night. I drove back home.
Yeah. Did you try out that Benro head yet?
Actually, it's back, and I haven't pulled it out. So
Yeah, Benro has come out with a really amazing stacker head. I forget what the price range is, like 800 to about 1,500, something like that.
yeah,
But it's an amazing device where you can basically once you lock it into your phone, it knows where it is on Earth, and then it finds a spot in the sky, and then it knows where it is, and then you can just basically zoom around to your heart's content. Again, you have the camera hooked into it, and you see it on your phone or device, and you can just basically, okay, go here, and boom, the camera goes to there and follows it. I got to see it in motion at the at ONA. One of the gentlemen had that there at the ONA Milky Way event, and that was really, really cool to see. If you guys get a chance, check out the photos from the Milky Way from the shoot at ONA. You'll see. I think his name was Paul, I think, but it was really cool. It was amazing, amazing stuff. Oh, there's another lunar eclipse.
yeah. But this was the one, what, earlier in the new year or last year?
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And that was taken with at 400 mils, in a desperate way because mosquitoes were eating me alive. And I was at a happy camper. And I took this picture in San Juan, Puerto Rico, with all the light pollution you can imagine, because my house there is in the financial district, so I'm in the middle of all the light pollution.
Right. Well, I like the fact you got some stars in there. That's really nice. Was this was a composite, or did you that just happen to
Actually,
be there?
actually, no. You can see that there is no trails, so I think they were like 10 seconds.
Right.
Only.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that a lot. That worked out really well.
Thank you.
All right.
And this is what I was mentioning before. This is the previous supermoon shot over, rising over the Sandia Mountains in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Again, the day before, like you guys were saying, it came up during blue hour, so you have a ton of light to get the foreground and so on, but it was cloudy. So I tried to take a couple of shots, bracketing. But again, like Lisa was saying, it's moving so quickly that basically, I could not align the two pictures, with the moon. So I decided to go with the dark foreground, and that's it. And like I said, I don't know if it was the Bradenton photo group. Here in New Mexico, there are about 7 or 8 certified dark places. So, guys, when the season starts again, you're more than welcome to come over, and we'll go shooting.
So it's party time at Glidden's house. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Bring the keg. Awesome. Well, that's really cool. Again, I like this stuff, Glidden.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had a little bit of technical difficulty there, so I had to step out for just a second, but
Okay.
it's
And
resolved.
this last one was a sunset that I shot in March 2002. I think I was using Kodak Ektar ISO 50 on that film, and this is how I scanned it. I took the picture, one shot, scanned it with an old Canon film scanner. So I think the resolution is quite low. It's like 3200 pixels or something like that. So, but again, for film and being, ISO 50, I think that picture, I will say, was like maybe about 10 seconds, maybe less than that. It came out quite good.
Yeah, I didn't realize this was on film, so I thought that's pretty
Sure.
cool.
Oh, yes, sir.
Glidden, I really like the image, and I believe if you would have cut out the blue part in the sky, it'd be more dramatic.
Well, I'll try it for sure.
Look at it, you'll see the whole difference.
Yeah.
It just makes the picture more of a wow.
Yeah, I'm waiting to rescan those pictures with newer scanners.
Mm-hmm.
The film,
Right.
and then imported it as a true PNG, so I can play with it.
Yeah, I quite like the variation of different shades. Actually, I suppose it's personal preference, maybe. Yeah.
Hey,
And I
Glidden.
put in the comments where it is in Queenstown, New Zealand.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, I don't know why it's like sometimes these things pop up where it says sunset over Lake. I'm gonna butcher the name. Wakatipu. Wakatipu.
Yeah, lake. Yes.
This is why this is
Mountains in the back is what they call the remarkables.
Yeah, I always have trouble with other languages because when I was in Italy and I dated this Italian woman, right? She said that I spoke Italian like a Chinese man, which apparently was not good. and very racist at the same time. So yeah,
She said it with peace and love. Come on.
no. She was rolling her eyes and frustrated with me with my bad Italian. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, this is really cool. I like it, and the fact that it was on film and that worked out really, really well. I wanted to ask you too, did you do any Venus belt pictures this time? Did you say you did?
No, that was today, but the moon, I think, just risen here. So it wouldn't have worked.
Let's see. I think somebody popped up. Nope, that was just me right there. All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing here. And I'm gonna go back to the presentation here real quick. So just bear with me 1 second as I navigate the myriad screens I've got up here. All right, cool beans. So, all right, thank you all very much. I appreciate you guys sharing so far. It's been a lot of fun. For those of you who don't know what the Venus, oops, I don't think it's working. Let me try it one more time. That's Firefox.
Oh, you want an explanation on the belt of Venus?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, if you don't
Oh.
mind.
Basically, the belt of Venus is when the sun is setting on the west, right, and you look towards the east, and you see, and it will happen in the morning as well on the opposite side, and you see that grayish color, and then a pinkish color on top on the horizon. That is called the Venus belt. That is none other than the shadow of the Earth as the sun is about to pop up above the horizon. And if you get that moon going through that, it is absolutely gorgeous.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see there. Give me 1 second. I gotta check something out real quick. Let me go to the next picture here. So on this particular picture, I went to go shoot the sun setting between the pier. For those who are not familiar with a app called Photo Pills, what it does is allows you to kind of help you plan out your shots. So my only time that I could go out there to do this was on a Sunday, and I couldn't do it because every time I'm working, by the time I get there, I would have missed the event and stuff like that. So this was my only time that I can go out there. So when I got out there, the sun you can see is right here, which was great. But I would hoped it had been a little bit more over one way or the other. So I was a little bit off on that one, unfortunately. Other than that, I think I was pretty happy with the results that I got. The results can be kind of varied and whatnot, depending on what kind of camera you're using and everything else. But basically, I just basically locked this down on a tripod and I just shot the one right there. Now, I will say that I did have to do a little bit of compositing because I lost a little bit of the detail that was right in here. So I took one of the brighter pictures that I did and I put this back in there for that. But other than that, all I did was I just shot this the way it is, and I just basically went to town on it. Now this is cropped. There was a little bit more of the pier here, but I did crop down a little bit more because this was just outside the depth of. It wasn't outside the depth of field, but it was just a little bit too soft for me. So I just zoomed in to get a little bit more of that picture. Now this one is the one I went to when I went to Ona. This was it's about 300 stacked photo. Now, when I'm saying stacking, I'm using an Olympus camera. An Olympus camera has a really cool thing called live composite. And with live composite, what that ends up doing is it allows you to create the image in the camera itself. So I can see all this happening up right here, which is really cool. And of course, planes fly by and stuff like that. Unfortunately, a few other photographers were there, and they kind of helped me paint the foreground. So I had to do a little bit of a blending on there to kind of fix that a little bit right there. But for the most part, this is pretty much what you saw right there. But the idea is that it's really cool. If you ever done any star trails and you stack them in Photoshop, what you do is you open up a bunch of layers in Photoshop of the image, and you just have the camera locked in on the tripod. You set your camera for whatever shot it's going to take you to get a decent star trail. In this case, this was 10 seconds at 2.8, 1600 for my particular camera. And so I'm pointing it at this and I'm letting it, and you can get a bunch of pictures. And then what happens is once they're all there, you can put them in a layered environment. And there's a spot there in Photoshop where you can call lighten the layers, and boom, this instantly pops up. It's really, really, really cool. But this is what the camera does, the Olympus does, as it's doing that. It lightens the layers as it's shooting there. The background right here, this foreground was really dark. So again, I just ended up blending this in with the black background with the extra light that was being put on there. I thought it worked out kind of well because it isn't a cemetery, so it has that kind of, at least for me, it has that spooky feel to the whole thing. Now, unfortunately, before I went to bed on the night of the lunar eclipse, before I went to bed, it was supposed to be very cloudy. In fact, hours before that, it was saying it was going to be like 60%. So I don't know about some of you guys, but I usually get up about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to take care of business, as they say. So I'm doing this, and I'm looking. I just for fun just to see how bad the cloud cover was, and lo and behold, my app said, "Hey, you got clear skies," and I'm like going, "Well, crap." I'm still in my pajamas, as they say, and so I'm like going, "Well, I'm up." So I went downstairs, got dressed first, went downstairs, grabbed my camera, and I went out to the Venice Fishing Pier where I planned to go anyway. So I'm going to talk about this one a little bit more in the editing process because it because this one is definitely a heavily composited photo. But in essence, it was basically 4 pictures that I ended up stacking together, mainly just to make sure I get the moon as best as I could, because otherwise it'd be washed out in some of the shots. So I basically bracketed for the moon, and then I just basically took the very first picture of this and kind of smashed it all together, as they say. But I'll talk about this a little more when we talk more about the edits and stuff like that. But yeah. Thank you, Angela. I appreciate that. So this is a little bit of a fun thing. But I could not believe that I had clear skies, and I was so disappointed I wasn't going to be able to go out and photograph it. And then when like I said, when I got up at that time, and it wasn't because I set my alarm or anything, it's just because I had to go take care of business. I went there and I was like going, well, crap. I told everyone it was going to be bad skies. I was talking to another guy came in the store, and he doesn't live, he lives a little bit further, a little bit north of me. He said he couldn't see it because it was just going to be cloudy conditions all the way through, and which he said. So I was like, oh man. So yeah, I was pretty happy with the result. This is after the sun was starting to rise. We're getting into the end of the blue hour, into the golden hour. You get a little bit of the Venus belt there, not too much. There's a lot of haze in the sky right there. Now, when I'm saying I stacked this twice, and again, I talk more about this in the editing thing. I stacked it because, again, I did a shot for this right here and a shot for that. But you can see the moon is starting to disappear behind the haze, so it's getting kind of hard to see the detail. But this is one of the other shots I wanted to get. When I was out there, I wanted to get a shot of this young fellow and the shot of this one right here. And I thought that was, again, I was very happy with the results of this particular one. Does anybody have any comments about any of that stuff?
I was going to say how pure the moon looks on the last photograph, and all the mess that we've created down, on the Earth.
Yeah,
I like the contrast.
Yeah, massive contrast.
No, cool. Well, thank you very much.
Really good.
Thank you. Now, I just got a couple of messages from some folks that said they sent me some stuff, so just bear with me 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing here, and then I'm going to get going on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, hang on 1 second. I just saw another thing pop up in the chat. All right, Phoenix, this is yours right here, I believe. And I'm going to see if I can find the other one here that you sent. For some reason, I didn't see it before.
I think that's the only one I sent this time. I just sent one.
Oh, okay. So I didn't get a chance to really take a look at it. So talk me through it.
So I went out to photograph the harvest moon. I think this is September. And I love the shot I got there. But as I was photographing the moon, and it's just coming up, as you can see on the left, there was a lightning storm going on way in the distance. So I kind of focused on that too, to time and just doing my natural synchronizing with the flash of the, and I seemed to get lucky a few times. And I kind of like this, the moon coming up and seeing the thunderbolt at the same time. So this is, I'm the only one on the beach. Everyone leaves before sun. I don't think there was even hardly anyone there for the sunset. This is on in Tequesta, Florida, if you know the area on the East Coast at Coral Cove Park. And I went up there 2 nights in a row. The first night, it really was so pitch. I wasn't on the beach before it got dark, and I didn't feel comfortable walking on level ground and stones because there's a lot of coral rock all over this beach. So I went back the next night. I got set up before the lights went out, so to speak, and then I was able to get the shot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, it's very lovely. I love that right there. You get a little bit of the lightning strike there. That's pretty
Right.
cool. And yeah, and I thought when I was looking at this, when it first popped up, I first thought, oh, she's on top of a mountain looking over. That's what I thought, looking at the clouds. But then when you said beach, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, because I really didn't realize it until the last couple of years. We actually have massive coral rocks right there at the beach edge, and so at the shore. And that's this particular park is known for that. It's near the Blowing Rocks Park, if you know that. That's run by, isn't it Audubon or someone? And then the Nature Conservancy. And then this is up a few more miles. And I go to this one because I can get there really early before sunrise, just walk across the street, the parking lot, or I can get stay late. The other park has set hours.
Right.
And you don't get a ticket at this park.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to go to I didn't realize that some of the Manatee County around here, so they have strict hours on their beaches. And I've been out there like at 3:00 in the morning, whatever, without any worries, and the cops would come in, hey, what are you doing? I'm just taking pictures, leave me alone. I'm over there at Coquina Beach, and the last time, and they came out and they were like, yeah, you guys have got to leave. I was like, you serious? He goes, yeah, I'm serious. I said, oh, all right, we won't tick you tonight, but you can't stay out here past 10:00. I was like, man.
They kicked us out for sure.
Yeah, I know. I was like not expecting that.
Yeah, you can't park. They have set times for their parking lot,
Yeah.
but we're able to walk. I mean, I walked across the street, so I parked on the opposite side
Yeah.
and just went through. So I've never got in trouble for that. But they're right out there watching. If you're
Right.
on 2 seconds extra on the side there, they'll ask you, "What are you doing? Do you need help?"
Yeah.
Is this south of Coral Cove Park?
This is at Coral Cove Park.
Oh, it is at Coral.
The
Cove
Cuesta
Park.
is Coral Cove Park. The one that's south of it is a Blowing Rocks, and that's run by the Nature Conservancy, and they have very strict rules. You can't. It doesn't even legally. You can't be there before 9. You could walk if you want to walk. I think it's about a mile south. Then you could walk to it from this park, from this beach, but you can't park there, and they don't open legally till 9:00 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, last time I was there, I got in trouble because it was turtle season,
Yes.
and they don't want you walking with the turtles, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, they don't want any lights. So they're very
Right.
conscious. And chances are, if it's pitch black, you're going to have some kind of light, even if it's a red light.
Yeah.
I did get there very early one morning, and they were helping protecting a turtle who just laid their eggs underneath someone's private. What do you call it when they have from the house to the beach?
The private dock or walkway or beach.
Right. So, and they were and the turtle was laying its eggs underneath there. So they and I don't know how they knew exactly to be there at the right time, but they were surrounding it, protecting it, and making sure no one could get around it on its path back to the ocean.
Wow.
So anyhow, it was a fun extra moment to get the thunderbolt
That's really cool.
or lightning bolt.
All right. Well, again, Phoenix, thank you very much for sharing. And Barbie just sent me some. Well, not just sent. She posted come on meet up here, so I'm going to go back to that. Did anybody have any other questions for Phoenix about that before we move on to this one? No? Okay. All right. I think where are they? I have to refresh, I think. I saw them on my phone. And the internet moves very slow. There we go. There they are. Yay. All right. These are yours, right, Barbie?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. I didn't think you could. Yeah, that's 25 seconds at f11, and it was with a 3-stop neutral density filter on there. And it was very early morning, and I wanted to get the water and slow it down to get that reflection on it.
Yeah. I love this is like one of my more favorite photos. I really love seeing water just cascading like that especially the way it works like that. And this was along the Potomac, you said, the Great Falls, the Potomac?
Yes, Potomac River up
Yeah,
in
that's
Maryland.
okay. Yeah, that's cool.
Barbie, were you on the Maryland or Virginia site?
I was on the Virginia side looking into Maryland.
Wow, I'm surprised you were able to get that low, because I used to ride my bike to that area and I never got that close to the water. Excellent. I love the colors on it.
Well, I walked out on the rocks quite a ways. I don't, they might, I think that this year they stopped people from doing that, but I did walk out on the rocks. So I think I used a telephoto. It was a 70 to 200.
And then the full color on the back. Oh, it's excellent.
Yeah. Again, I really like this a lot. This looks really cool. And you got some excellent detail in the background right there as well. You know, yeah. Was it a very windy day, or is it just a regular day? Or
no, it was just a regular morning. It was just regular, but I did use that 3-stop fixed filter that I screwed on the front to kind of slow things down, because the sun was starting to come up, and I wanted it to be darker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was.
It worked. It's very inviting.
Yeah, there's another little hidden waterfall. Nothing as spectacular as the Great Falls, but it's. You ever heard of a place called Falling Water?
Is that in Pennsylvania?
No. That's what everyone thinks. It's like it's the Frank Lloyd House in there, but it's along the Potomac, and I'm trying to remember. I think it's in the Virginia side, not too far from. Oh my God, I'm going to butcher the name again. Now I have to look at my map, but it's really, really cool because it's so hidden out of the way. You wouldn't know it was there. It's right next to this church, and you have to kind of walk down. A battle had been fought there too. It's like one of the Civil War things.
You mean near Manassas?
Yeah, it's further away than that, but not too far. About a half hour, 40 minutes there along the Potomac. I'm trying to pull it up real quick here. If I can type it in real quick. Falling Waters, West Virginia. Excuse me, that's where it is. West Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And and it's near Hagerstown, or Williamsport. I'm sorry, it's near Williamsport, up there in Maryland. You know where the CNO, the Cumberland and Chesapeake, Ohio. So you basically just go down a little bit too far, and you have to kind of like pay attention to the signs, which are very badly. They're hard to see. The only reason I was going there is because I wanted to take my son to go see this waterfall, and I had seen that there was. I was looking along our path that we'd be driving. And so where is it we can go see a waterfall that we can get to fairly easily? And it was really cool. I was really happy to find it. And it's like I said, if you would you blink, you missed it because it's it's like down a little not a storm area, but it's down a bit where you have to walk down to get to it, which is really cool. But there's lots of private property around it, so you got to be kind of careful. You don't want, because if you walk too far, you're on somebody's property.
Right.
Yeah. And this is in Tampa. Is this Tampa?
That was no, that was up in Maryland also.
Okay.
And that was in the middle of the day. You guys are such night owls. You're able to stay up late at night. I do these in the middle of the day, and this one I put a 15-stop filter on the front, so I slowed it down dramatically and was able to get that bridge. It was a swing bridge opening. So it was really kind of interesting, and it captured the cloud movement. And that was about, I think, 2.5 minute exposure. But it was in the middle of the day.
Right. Yeah, I love that. That's really, really cool. And I like the choice of making it black and white because the kids at that night, you can see the tones much more effectively that way too, I would imagine.
Well,
Yep.
yes, and a lot of times those long exposures, they kind of distort the color and it
Right.
gets kind of funky looking.
Yeah. Now, which neutral density filter system are you using?
I used, I think it was probably a 10 and a 5, and I just stacked them on top of each other. It was probably
Right.
Stingray. It was
Okay.
Stingray
How,
filters.
do you like the color, the way it helps with the color, or doesn't affect the color at all? Or
Well, I think, no, it makes it kind of mauve colored. So when you have to kind of do a color correction, and then I took it into Nick software and did the conversion into black and white.
that's cool. Yeah, because that's one of the things that I'm always looking at when I'm looking at neutral density filters. Because it's sometimes it's hard because it does affect the color sometimes.
Oh, it really gives it a color cast. You've got
Yeah,
to, you've got
yeah,
to fix that. And you can't do them in color normally, but sometimes they look more effective in the black and white, especially with the cloud movement.
yeah. I'll have to try that with that tree picture I shot. 'Cause I didn't even think about that. I was like, because I like the colors and stuff. So that's really cool. Well, Barbie,
Well,
thank
you
you.
can do it. The good thing is you can do it in the middle of the day.
Yeah, that's the part that's really cool. Yeah. Well, Barbie, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so glad you were able to do it. Now, did you? Now I know you were the one I talked to before. Because I was talking to you when you came into the store about the cloudy. Did you ever get up and take a look, or no?
No, I didn't, because I thought it was going to be 60% clouds, so I
Oh,
just didn't.
that's what I said. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god. When I got up, I was like, I just looked at the weather. And I'm like going, well, crap.
Yeah, that's disappointing. Well, anyway, I should have tried.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was very unhappy with the weatherman that night. All right, well, let's get into the edits parts. Well, thank you guys very much for sharing. I really appreciate that, and I hope you guys enjoyed seeing some of that work from everyone. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to pull this up, and we'll get started on this guy here. So I'm going to talk about some of the editing. And again, I am not an editing expert by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I have a bit of a cheat. I've got two graphic designers that work here at the Johnson Photo Imaging that help me out dramatically. And so it's one of those things that can be very useful for me, especially when I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. Now, some of you who have been doing this for a little bit longer than me or whatever, or have got better editing chops, you'll probably point out, well, you shouldn't have done it like that. You should have done it like this. So you're more than welcome to say that if you like. It's not a problem. So just keep that in mind. So now some people were asking me last time about workflow and stuff. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So this is me, and I use Lightroom quite a bit. Some of you may or may not use it. If you're using something like Photoshop Elements, you might be using Organizer or not even using it at all. I'm not a big fan of Organizer because I think it's a little bit clunky. I don't know. I haven't tried it lately on the latest Apple products, the M1 or M2 chips, but it seems to be okay-ish. I mean, Windows products, but not as it has been kind of clunky for me on that. So as a rule, what I usually do is when I copy the photos, I've already put them in my own folder system, which in this particular case, I have a drive where I store everything on there. This is the drive that apparently crashed on me, so now it's back up and running. So what I do is I usually store it in there, and I have its own little filing system where I generally throw it down there and I do it by month, day, and year. Now you can do this in Lightroom too, but I do it myself because it's one less thing, and I know where it's at, and I can do it that way. And one of the things I got to make sure is that it says right here on the that make sure it moves it without it copies it without moving it into Lightroom. So that way I can have access to it whenever I want to. And then of course you can see I'm adding all my keywords at this point for everything in there. So if you haven't done that before, it's useful, especially if you're trying to find different things on your system. So I find that very, very useful. And if you sell things or put things in like Shutterstock or or stock photo agencies, they like those keywords because they can use those things. When you do that type of stuff, it can be kind of fun. Now, what I did with the photo that I'm going to show you here, this is the one I did with the moon there. What I did was I took all the photos and I stuck it in the ones I was going to work with, so you don't have to look at them all, where it's only just the moon photos. And so what I did was I basically started with these 4 photos right here, and I basically went through and just double checked to see how they looked, looking for making sure I got the moon there. And you can see there's where the moon's pretty good, and then there's where it's kind of overexposed a little bit right there. But I've got the pier that I want right there in the shot. So once I do all that, I open up as layers in Photoshop, and then once it's in Photoshop, I could then go ahead and start doing some of my edits as they say and that type of stuff. And that's all I'm doing is I'm just opening it up in there, and Photoshop is creating all the layers. Now, there's a thing in Photoshop where you can do what's called align the layers, but the moon's moving. So it had a hard time trying to figure out that's what for that. But what I ended up doing was I ended up going through in Photoshop. Give me 1 second. Let me pause this real quick. So what I'm doing is when I'm opening them up, through all the changes and stuff, what I'm doing is I'm changing each one here a little bit. So right here, I'm going up here, changing the opacity of this layer so I can see where the moon's at. And then I do, and I move that layer around as a free transform. I just move it up and down to where I'm just looking to where the moon's going to be. And I repeat the process for each layer. Now, if you got 200 layers, so that gets to be annoying, that's where auto align would be helpful for that. Now, there's things like in Star Stacks or Sequator where you can actually freeze the foreground and do some painting for that. But I didn't do that. I was just basically going through the different layers and just making sure the moon was staying in the right spot for that particular thing. Because that's what I was trying to get, was kind of like a little bit of an HDR effect for the whole entire moon. Once I did that, and I basically played, and I just wanted to see where it was. I took the that I'm sorry, take that back. I took all this stuff right here, and I made one giant layer of the whole thing. And then what I ended up doing was back it up a little bit. So everything right here is just everything where I did make sure the moon was there, and I chose. Oops, I can't see it now. Hang on a second. Everything's normal. Back up a little bit. Yeah, so I did darker color on all the slides right there, the layers. But then once I merged all those layers into a new layer. So of course the picture's fairly dark, but I got the moon the way I want it. So what I did was then I took that layer that I like with all the light, and once I did that, I then lightened up so I can do an opacity change a little bit so I can make sure it's in the right spot. Once I did that, once I made sure everything was matched up, and then I could basically go to town and work on the edits a little bit more once I get everything lined up. And that's basically all I'm doing at this particular point. And once I got it lined up, I was okay with where it was and how it looked. So now that it's lined up and I masked out the moon, you can barely see it right there, but there's a little dot where I masked out the area right there with the moon so you can see the moon under that. And so that way you just see the rest of the background, and I can see my moon right there. Now you can see there's another guy who's up here on the pier who's doing a little video of the moon as it's going across there. But the main thing is I got the first picture of which is fairly sharp, of the pier and stuff like that, which is what I was trying to get to on that particular thing. And then I did go in there and I did some a little bit more creative editing with the whole entire thing, making the sky a little bit dark, adding gradients and stuff like that. Because if you look a little bit closer, back it up a little bit, you can see it, the noise level is not too bad. But what I did end up doing was doing some handling of that particular thing at the very end there, with bumping up the clarity and stuff like that. So that way I can see the stars as well as the moon, and also making sure I didn't lose my details on this. I did run it through AI Topaz to make it look really cool, to help with some of the noise level when it was all said and done. And that was basically how I got to this figment. That's why I'd say it's 4 stacks, because that's all I did was I stacked the images mainly for the moon, not for the rest of the picture. And then once I had this, I just did my basic editing around so that would look pretty clean around that particular one.
So Dono, did you put the colours on there as well?
No, the colors were there right here.
Really?
It was because I shopped him out because he was distracting. So I took the guy that was standing there. So every time he would turn his light on or his phone, you'd see these colors pop up every now and then. You can see I missed a little bit of the light right there for him where he moved over here and stuff like that. But he was standing right there. If I go back, let me see if I go back to the previous pictures. 1 second. You can see there he is right there, and that picture right there, and then some of the other ones, the lights where he moved around, where I blended a little bit there on the bottom right there.
It just looks like a post. If you don't know it's a man, it just looks to me. It looked like I thought it was a post.
Yeah, well, I knew he was there because I could hear him talking on his on his phone. So I was like, "Man, you're in my shot." No, that's okay. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. So it didn't take too long to get rid of him as far as that goes. But the existing lightings was there. Like I said, somebody, and I think if I remember right, somebody else walked through the whole entire thing too. It wasn't that long. They were pretty quick about it. Now, on this particular one, I said I did this in 2 stacks right here. So again, what I did was I put everything in its own folder for those type of things. I made my own folder in Lightroom. It's called Create Collection. I just made sure I had all the photos that I selected. Once I did that, I just made a little separate folder to keep it separate so I can just concentrate on that stuff. That was the final image that I ended up with. But what I started with is basically these 2 images right here. I went back and forth. And I was like, okay, I like those. I like the light there. I like it light there, and I like the moon there. So I needed to put those 2 together. So again, I'm editing in Photoshop, and again, I'm opening up in layers in Photoshop to get the picture. Once it's opened up in Photoshop, I was ready to go to town on it. So it didn't take long to do that type of thing. So once I was in there, I just basically kind of just kind of back and forth real quickly just to see what it was going to look like. I noticed there was a hair there. I wanted the moon like where I didn't like the light moon there. But the good thing about this particular picture is that there is a horizon light, which is a nice little divide for the whole entire thing. So I was able to mask out the whole entire area and just basically blend that area in there. And that's basically what I'm doing at this particular point is I'm blending all that stuff in. I select the sky, then I inverted it a little bit. So then I basically changed I selected just the water there, and I did a little of an opacity change on that one, so I can blend a little bit of that soft water on top of the whole thing. And once that was done, I was pretty much happy with the result. I get rid of that little thing in there, and then I was able to get the picture the way I kind of looked. So these are basically it's a blended photo, not quite stacked, but a more of like a blended photo. Then what I did was I took it into Luminar Neo because I didn't like the color cast a little bit, so I played around with that. I like how Neo kind of handles that, and then I just go in there, and I did a couple of extra tweaks once I got rid of the color cast on there to kind of bring it in there. But you notice too, there's a lot of noise in the picture. So there again, there's a couple of ways you can go about doing it. You can do it in almost any program right here, but once I did that, I opened it up in AI Topaz for AI noise from Topaz, and you can actually see how I'm kind of like looking, see how it's going to handle the noise, which way it's going to go, and I'm like trying to make sure I'm not losing too much detail. But I kind of like the noise. I like some of the noise, but not all the noise in this one. So what I ended up doing was I ended up taking the one that with all the noise, and then with the noise masked out. Then I went back to the original picture and then layered the old one on it, and I did an opacity, excuse me, an opacity change in order to make sure that it looked a little bit more realistic because you need a little bit of noise in there anyway. But once I got that taken care of, I made it look like masked it out, and then, like I said, did a little bit of layer change on that, so that way it makes it a little bit more pleasing to look at as far as that goes. I did a little bit of AI sharpen too when I was done too on the whole thing when I was all set and done. And I basically went back in the camera raw to tweak the sky just a little bit more, if I remember correctly. And that's about it on that particular one right there. once that was done, I did a little bit of cleanup here on the sides right here, real quick. Yeah, just to bring up some more detail as far as that goes. Tweak the color just a little bit more, but not by much. But that's basically how I sandwiched the stuff together. I just basically took the sky, took this, made sure I could still see the details on that, and I just did a little bit of cleaning up on some of the noise using AI noise for Topaz, which worked out really, really well for me. And I really liked it a lot. I think it came up pretty cool. And again, I sent the pictures to my son, so I got his stamp of approval. So I'm very happy with that. For those who don't know, my son's 18, and what I normally do is I used to go on summer trips with him, and I would take him out in the middle of the night to go shoot pictures like this. So now that he's 18, we don't go on too many summer trips anymore. At least not recently. So I've been sending him pictures every time I go on a trip, just to show. But I send it to him like at 3:00 in the morning when I'm done. Just to make sure he gets the full effect. All right. Any other last minute things that anybody want to talk about before I wrap it up? No? All right, cool.
Thank you very much, Donna.
Oh, not a problem. So when you're working with noise, I mean, again, everybody can kind of correct me if you want to, but that was one way of dealing with the noise level. It's doing AI Topaz. Photoshop, or Photoshop Elements even, has a selection there where you can go into at least for Photoshop Elements, you go under the expert level, and you can actually choose a filter in there for noise and help modify the noise level. If you're shooting things on RAW, regardless of whatever camera it is, you can always open it up in Photoshop and kind of mask the noise out in RAW a little bit better. A lot of folks, what they do is what they solve with it is they shoot multiple pictures and they stack them, and they use other programs like maybe Star Stack or the Sequator, or they can do it in Lightroom and stack them together and help modify the noise as well too. As Dave pointed out, some cameras will, even if you have noise reduction on, will help modify that. But even sometimes that doesn't do the job the way you want it. And one choice is like what I did was I took one picture that removed all the noise, and then some picture with some of the noise, and put them in Photoshop, and I just changed the opacity of the layer so that way it kind of masked out some of the noise. Maybe not the best way to do it, but that's one way of helping where I modify noise on that type of stuff. There's a variety. Again, that's not just that. There's lots of different ways, and as I said, some people might have a little bit better option. Some people, like I said, do it again with stacking and stuff. But again, everyone's got their own little path. But there's all sorts of ways you can approach it. And the idea of what you do is like if you got sky, a lot of noise in the sky, but the foreground looks good, just mask out the sky and apply the filter to that, and that way you can get clear out some of the noise that you want to do. Any other questions about anything else?
No, I've learned a lot. Thank you very much.
No, good. Was it worth the staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning? It's 1:30 over there now, right?
Yeah, 20 to 2. Yes, I'm ready. But no, really, really lovely. Thank you very much, all of you.
No problem, Julie. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments or considerations?
Thanks for a good meeting.
Oh, good.
Thanks a lot, Donald.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for putting it together.
No, not a problem. I'll keep doing it as long as people keep enjoying it. It's when people don't show up is probably when I'll stop. So I'll be doing the next one for the low light group in January. I don't know what type of theme or if we should try for a theme, but I'll be in January for that particular one for that. So anyway, just letting you know, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to show up. I hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I look forward to seeing you out there in the dark sometime in the near future. Take lots of pretty happy photos, all right? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donald.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.